Imagine being locked away for 27 years, not for a crime, but for demanding equality. Imagine emerging from prison, not with hatred, but with forgiveness. This is the story of Nelson Mandela, a man who changed the course of history through courage, sacrifice, and unwavering belief in justice. Today, we explore Nelson Mandela's life, his struggle against apartheid, his years in prison, and his lasting legacy as one of the greatest leaders the world has ever known. In the history of humanity, very few individuals have transformed pain into hope, oppression into freedom, and hatred into reconciliation. Nelson Mandela was one such man. He was not born powerful. He was not born famous. He was born into a divided land and chose to unite it. In the story of human history, there are moments when one person stands up against injustice, and the world is never the same again. Nelson Mandela was not just a leader. He was not just a revolutionary. He was a symbol of hope for millions of people who lived under oppression. He spent 27 years in prison, yet emerged with a message of peace. He faced hatred, yet chose forgiveness. He lived through injustice, yet believed in equality. This is the story of Nelson Mandela and his long, painful, and inspiring struggle for freedom. Early life and background. Nelson Mandela was born on July 18, 1918, in the small village of Vezo in South Africa. His birth name, Raleigh, means troublemaker, a name that would later feel prophetic. Mandela belonged to the Thembu royal family, which gave him access to education, something rare for black South Africans at the time. After his father's death, Mandela was raised by a local chief, where he learned leadership, respect, and justice through tribal discussions. He later attended Fort Hare University, one of the few higher education institutions open to black Africans. There, Mandela became politically aware, joining student protests against unfair policies. This was the beginning of a lifelong fight. Apartheid, a system of oppression. To understand Mandela's struggle, we must understand apartheid. Apartheid was a system of racial segregation enforced by South Africa's white minority government. Under apartheid, black South Africans had no voting rights. Families were forcibly removed from their homes. Education, healthcare, and jobs were racially divided. Peaceful protest was met with violence. Mandela saw firsthand how this system destroyed lives. He believed that remaining silent was the same as accepting injustice. Joining the ANC and rising as a leader. In 1944, Mandela joined the African National Congress, ANC, and helped form its youth league. The goal was clear: challenge apartheid through organized resistance. At first, Mandela believed in peaceful protest, strikes, boycotts, and civil disobedience. He became a lawyer to defend black South Africans who were victims of unjust laws. But the government responded with increasing brutality. After peaceful protesters were killed, Mandela faced a painful reality. Peaceful methods alone were not enough. Reluctantly, he supported armed resistance, not against civilians, but against symbols of apartheid power. This decision would change his life forever. Arrest, trial, and life sentence. In 1962, Nelson Mandela was arrested and later charged with sabotage and conspiracy against the government. During the famous Rivonia trial, Mandela delivered one of the most powerful speeches in history. He declared that he was fighting for a society where all people lived together in equality, and that he was prepared to die for this ideal. In 1964, Mandela was sentenced to life imprisonment. He was sent to Robben Island, a harsh prison where he was forced into hard labor and isolated from his family. 27 years in prison. Prison life was brutal. Mandela was allowed one visitor and one letter every 6 months. He slept on a thin mat, worked in a limestone quarry, and was constantly watched. But prison did not break him. Instead, Mandela educated himself and others. He learned Afrikaans to understand his captors. He believed that knowing your enemy was the first step toward peace. Outside prison, the world began to notice. Protests grew. Free Nelson Mandela became a global call for justice, freedom, and the end of apartheid. On February 11, 1990, after 27 years in prison, Nelson Mandela walked free. The world watched as he raised his fist, not in anger, but in victory. Rather than seeking revenge, Mandela chose reconciliation. He worked with former enemies to dismantle apartheid peacefully. In 1994, South Africa held its first democratic election. Nelson Mandela became the country's first black president. Legacy and impact. As president, Mandela focused on unity, forgiveness, and rebuilding a divided nation. He proved that leadership is not about power, it is about service. Mandela once said, "Courage is not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it." His life teaches us that injustice anywhere affects justice everywhere, that forgiveness is a strength, not a weakness, that one person standing firm can change the world. Nelson Mandela's struggle was not just against apartheid, it was against hatred, fear, and his story reminds us that freedom is never given freely. It is earned through sacrifice, patience, and courage. Nelson Mandela's struggle was not just his own, it belongs to all who believe in justice. His life reminds us that even in the darkest times, hope can rise, because one man dared to stand and the world changed. If his life inspires you, share this story, because remembering Mandela means continuing his fight for equality and justice. Please subscribe, like, and share this video. Your support really helps the channel grow.